Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to The Late Show. I'm your host Babar Ali with my co-host Soggy. Firstly, we'd like to say Eid Mubarak to all the Muslims out there who were celebrating Eid, whether it was yesterday or today. I hope your Eid went well and you spent a lot of quality time with your families, and inshallah you'll be all refreshed and ready to go for tomorrow as things go back to normal. And Soggy's had plenty of cake today, so he's not, in the mood for talking at the moment.
Alaikum. Eid Mubarak to everyone out there listening, whether it was celebrated yesterday or today. Yeah, mashallah, very, very good. Happy day today. Celebrated. So, shout out to brothers and sisters out there later on. If you want to text in to give a shout out to your family or friends, please do so. We're here for a couple of hours, inshallah. The studio number to text into is 07909 567 527. If you want to text in to give a shout out or salam and respect or Eid Mubarak to your family and friends, please don't hesitate to do so.
That's right. Sorry, that's right. If you want to give out shout outs, or you want to give Eid messages to your families or whatever, more than welcome to call in. If you want to call in, I'll repeat the number again. It's 01189 660382. The text number is 07909 567 527. And inshallah you'll have the opportunity a bit later on to do that. We want to get serious.
The phone's going already.
Okay, the phone's going off. Okay, we want to get a bit serious and get right into today's topic. You may have seen a lot of advertisements via the internet or word of mouth or whatever it may be regarding Reading's own Andre McIntyre, who's been involved in a serious case for quite a while now. I mean, this is going back the end of last year.
Just interrupt there, Barbara. To the brothers and sisters that's calling, we're not taking calls in yet. We want to get into the show, please. Be patient. Please bear with us. Let's get into the topic first before we start taking calls. So, apologise for not taking a call. We'll get into that later on, inshallah.
Inshallah, yeah. Like Soggy said, we'll take the calls a bit later on. We want to get into it. So, Andre, I mean, let's start off from the beginning.
Assalamu alaikum, Eid Mubarak.
Khair Mubarak.
Khair Mubarak. How's today been for you anyway?
More relaxed, my brother. More relaxed. A lot of stress, a lot of catching up to do after this problems that I've been having over the last year. Mm-hmm. But it's all coming forward, and it's all coming together. Inshallah.
Inshallah. They say that after struggle there's ease. You've been going through a lot of struggle, and inshallah now you start seeing a bit of ease. I mean, the whole of Reading knows who you are. You don't need any introductions.
Don't know if that's a good thing.
It could be a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. So we won't get into all that. Let's go straight to it and get to this topic now. How did this happen?
First of all, there's so many points to this case and to what's happened over the last year. I don't really know where to start. My head's just going crazy at the moment. What point to start on first? There's so much things to start on.
How old is it? How many months does it go back? I know it's...
Well, the case was 9th of May last year.
Okay, we're going back to the year.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, you guys were the first people to report on the case. I don't know if you remember my niece, Shauna Little, was in here as a trainee. She's a trainee barrister, and she done a legal advice show for you, and you highlighted the case on that. You were the first people to do it, so Jazakallah khair. I just have to say thank you for that, because
thank you, Shauna, if she's listening as well.
Yeah, I'm sure she will be.
Yeah, so I mean, this actual incident happened back in the end of last year, was it?
That's right, yeah.
I mean, how did it start off? I mean, for those people who don't know what we're talking about today, we're talking about dangerous dogs. There was a dog attack, and Andre, done something, he thought that was right. Obviously the police or whoever else may have thought different or felt different about what you done. So Andre, we just want you to explain, exactly the details what happened.
Okay, first of all, I think it's best to start with Reading Evening Post. When the incident first happened, the Post had exclusivity on the case before I even contacted you guys, or I spoke to a reporter there, and told them what was going on, what just happened. And they were the first people that I contacted, okay? And they took my story, the full story of what happened, okay? However, just like normal paparazzi, what they decided to do was to put a spin on it, join in with listen to what Thames Valley Police had to say, and write what prosecution was accusing me of, rather than following an eyewitness report. Now, I can understand them taking prosecution's case, but what they should have done is highlighted what prosecution had to say and says, however, Mr. McIntyre said blah, blah, blah. And they didn't do that. So it switched from it being a self-defense issue to a revenge attack issue, which is where the general public now have an opinion that the dog was already tied to the tree, and what I basically done was went down there as a revenge thing and killed the dog, which is not what happened.
So they're saying basically you went and took the law into your own hands, basically, and done whatever you wanted to do.
Exactly, and that's not what happened. But the Evening Post, they've had umpteen chances to basically to put the story straight, and what they've done, they've decided to go in between, because obviously that, I just believe that that's because it gets more readers. Okay. First of all, right, okay, so let's cover what the dog is. I now know, in hindsight, the dog is called a Presa Canaria, which is a Spanish dog. It's part of the Bull Mastiff breed. It's probably the same size of a Rottweiler, or big. In fact, it's bigger than a Rottweiler. It's more like it's a Bull Mastiff, like a Dog de Bordeaux, that kind of size. Smaller than a Dog de Bordeaux, but more agile. Okay. The time of day was, from my recollection, around 8 o'clock at night. It was summer, so therefore it was just turning dusk. It was fairly light. The location was Portman Road, which is where Reading Chronicle is based. And my office at the time was by which I spent a lot of time at, which was near the Army Barracks on the Oxford Road. Jack, who actually got bit by the dog, Jazek, who got bit by the dog, who actually called me initially, his property was one block behind, on the same block, but just behind my office at the Army Barracks.
Property meaning why he lived there?
He lived there, yeah, that was his house. And obviously Portman Road was another 2 blocks down from his house, so it was all in proximity. It was all in close proximity. I think that's important for me to make that point, because people had the impression that I went out my way to go and get this thing, to rush down to the other side of Reading to go and get, and that's not what happened. Okay, all right. So if we can just try to picture and clarify that it will all happen in the proximity of 3 different blocks. Okay, now. The real story. I was in my property at West Reading Bridge, and I was with my son, okay, watching TV. Like I said, around 8 o'clock at night, I got a phone call from this Jazek, who is actually somebody I train and somebody I know quite well.
Oh, so he's a friend, basically.
He's a friend, yeah, saying to me that he's just been attacked. I can't recall at that point if he said he'd been attacked by a dog, but I remember him saying basically, please, Andre, I need to go to the hospital. All right, and he's the type of person, he's quite quiet. He's Polish, his English isn't brilliant, right? Obviously he understands what you're saying, but it's not brilliant.
He's not very confident.
Yes, very quiet guy. But what he done, he's asking for help, and it's not something he normally does. So I knew something was up, so I rushed down to his property, which took me about 2 minutes to get from West Reading Bridge to the Army Barracks. All right, went round to his property, and he was outside. He had his arm wrapped up. Now, what I saw is actually, I managed at the hospital to take a video of it, thank God, and put it on YouTube. So if you put Andre McIntyre dog attack into YouTube, you will actually see what greeted me when I turned up that day. All right, I've seen dog bites before, you know, little nips from dog, but this thing looked like he'd been attacked by a shark. But I mean, you draw your own conclusions when you watch it on YouTube. All right, YouTube's deemed it as being as something severe for YouTube to inappropriate. So what? That's just from the bite. So that, what does that tell you? And they've age restricted it, but you can put any details in there, I believe, and you know it will come up. You just want to know your age, basically. So his arm's quite badly been bitten, but what he's done, he's wrapped it. Obviously, knowing first aid, he's wrapped it so it stopped bleeding, but there's massive gapes on his arm. I looked at it and I said, what happened? And he's explained to me, obviously he's been attacked by the dog. Now, he said he's got this dog and it's attacked him. So I knew then, obviously he's in association with the dog, okay? I said, Jack, you can't look after that dog. The dog's got to be put down. If it's biting the person who feeds it, you can't be looking after that dog. I said, get in the car, I'll take you to the hospital. He got in the car. So as I reversed off the corner now to drive down Gordon Place, right, which is where my office was also, which is, remember, it's on the same block. I said to him, where's the dog now? And he said, tied to the tree. I said, where? He said, by the kids' playground at the bottom of the road. In shock now.
How can you tie a dog around a tree? I mean, how big is the leash?
The leash is quite long. It's like a tracker lead that the dog had. It was quite a long leash. It's like basically you could hold it here and the dog could reach to the next room.
So he tied it around the trunk?
He tied it around the trunk of the tree, yeah, right?
Okay.
After it bit him, yeah, right. Right, so he, well, yeah, after it's bit him, he's tied the dog around the tree.
What was his reason for getting bit? What did he say?
Right, so I said to him...
Sorry, I just... You go first.
Thank you. No, I'm just intrigued here. I mean, this guy's been bitten by this dog and he's still... The severity, I've seen the bite marks and seen it myself, and the severity of it, and he still was in his right state to be talking to you.
No, he was in shock a little bit. Yeah, he was.
Was he screaming in pain, saying,
He's a fighter, so it's not something... He wouldn't scream in pain, but you could see he was in discomfort, obviously. Okay, so he said the dogs... So straight away, I've got all this hitting me, right? You know, his fingers are shaking, so obviously it's caught... It looks as if it's severed a nerve or something, right? So it was quite serious.
That's fine.
But
what was his reason for being attacked? Sorry, Baba.
He said... within that conversation, he said basically he was walking the dog out. He was walking the dog off the lead because he'd only had the dog 4 months, right, at maximum. The dog, the dog was walking off the lead. He'd built up a bond with the dog. The dog heard two dogs barking from a nearby garden, right, which was like in the distance. The dog flipped. He turned around and said to the dog, and the dog's name was Tank. He turned around and said to Tank, calm down. The dog turned at him and just ran at him and latched onto his arm. Right? So he said he dragged the dog to the tree with it latched onto his arm. The dog tried to shake, so what he's done is grabbed onto the collar and he's dragged the dog, so he's like pulling it onto his arm. Now I'm going for recollection from his statement as well, right? So he's pulled the dog onto his arm by holding it by the collar and frog marched the dog basically down to the tree, wrapped the thing round the leash round the tree and pulled his hand out the dog's mouth, and I think that's where it's caused the ripping. Wow. All right. Then he's basically got shifted home quick and rang me. All right. Now, so he's basically told me this, and I said, "Where's the dog?" So he said it's by the kids' playground. I said, "Jack, you can't leave the dog there. Are you stupid?" He goes, "What was I supposed to do?" And I think that's when the story came out about what happened. And I said, "Jack, you can't leave it. If it bites a kid, you go in prison." And I goes, "You can't have that conscience for kids on you. We've got to move the dog." So rather than running straight down there, which was just too bad, I drove around Oxford Road, which was to just shoot down Norfolk Junction and shoot around. But the traffic's not bad. Anybody knows the Oxford Road. The traffic's not bad. I reckon it probably added another minute onto the trip. It wasn't much, right? So I zoomed round there. But as soon as he told me that, and I was driving down Gordon Place, Jack's quite a big, he's shorter than me, but he's quite stocky. Common sense hit me, and I said, Andre, hold on a minute. If that dog's done that to him, how the hell can you go around there empty-handed? What if the dog does that to you?
What was your reason of going down there initially?
Good question. That's what I was going to say.
Sorry?
I mean,
What was
okay,
the reason to go down there in the first place?
Like I just said, it was the fact that it was tied up by the
By the
Tree.
playground.
by the kids' playground. Yeah.
So
right?
you want sorry, we just keep talking to each other. So you was wanting to go down there and just see how the dog was tied up.
Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. So basically, what happened then is I said, "You're crazy! You can't go down there empty-handed." So I ran into the back of my warehouse bit, which is at the back of my office, to find something to pick up as protection. As I went in there, obviously I saw the blade which the maintenance people use for the garden. All right, so I picked it up and took it out. Now, I tell you exactly what I told the police. I told the police that I took a machete with me. Because that's what we call it. It's a machete. It's a long bladed knife, right? And let's get something straight. When I say the word machete to people, so let's just cover this right now on the radio, right? Because I'm not ashamed, I'll tell you straight. Machete sound. This is highly irregular and I think it's wrong what happened to him. Anyway, it's gone to court. Jack's not there. They reckon they don't know where Jack is. Jack has not turned up to give evidence against me. But even if he did, all they would do was try to match up the two stories and try to find a discrepancy, because he never said anything bad about me in the first place. There's nothing for him to say.
There's nothing for him to say, exactly.
Now, I go back a following week. They charge me.
What was the charge?
They charge me with having an effect. In a roundabout way, having an offensive weapon in a public place without due cause and reason, having and causing harm and suffering to an animal, basically. All right. So it's three charges basically, and then it just went on. Basically, the Evening Post reported on it.
1 second, I just got a phone call, but I didn't step. Sound like one of my friends?
Okay. The Evening Post reported on it, and they printed it the way it sounded,
Right.
which is the way everyone read it, which was Andre done this, Andre done that, prosecution say this, prosecution say that. Okay.
What? It's not coming through clear.
Do you want me to carry on talking?
Oh, you're the first person to say that, to be honest. You're the first person to call in and say that, to be honest.
Sorry, I think we're having a bit of technical difficulties. If it just so happens that you can't hear us clearly, or for whatever reason, please let us know. Because we always have to make adjustments on the system. So it would be nice if the listeners out there would just send us a text or a quick call just to say you're not hearing us that clearly.
There's a brother on an iPhone app saying that he couldn't hear nothing, so it could be a problem on his phone.
Okay.
If it's widespread, let us know, please. Sorry, Amber.
Yes. Okay, so the case went on. The first trial was listed for, they had been waiting from October for trial, and the way it works with the Crown Prosecution Service is that it lists, but you're in court and you have to turn up the next day basically for court. So my life's been on hold, and I'll be honest with you. I feature quite often on One on FM, and you done a report on me with my last fight. And to be honest, my brain went on it, training went right, and one of the major things on my head was this court case. To be honest with you, I'm not going to blame it for loss and all that kind of stuff, but it did play a major part because I picked up stress injuries, and the stress injuries, as my massage therapist said, was not from training, it was from stress. So it did contribute to that. It's caused me a lot of problems. The way the Evening Post reported on the case as well led to animal rights activists on the radio, on the internet, leaving comments saying, "But I need to be castrated," etc., etc., etc. On the Get Reading website, and as you all know, I'm not the type of character to stand for that. So I became verbal with it, and I gave out my address on the internet and told them to turn up, basically, and no one has. But the point of the matter is these are the kind of dramatics that I've had to cope with over the last year. So, entree the case. The case happened in February, 5-day case.
Crown Court, Reading.
Crown Court, Reading. During the trial, the first 2 days, the prosecution putting forward their case. They put forward their case, get ready and decide to go and put in the paper. It looked as if I was going to get done for it, to be honest with you, the way they put the case together. McIntyre went down there with revenge, he done this, blah, 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 painted out what they needed to paint out, get ready and followed the case, and printed in the paper that I said the dog must die, and then proceeded to the dog.
Where did they get that information that you said the dog must die? Where did they get that from?
They reckon they took notes from the case, but I'm telling you, it was never said, and it's not in anyone's statement that was said.
Did they find it in a text message?
That's not how I talk.
Did they find it in a text message?
What text message?
I don't know, the same.
Have they quoted you? Have they quoted you as saying
They
that?
quoted me for saying that.
Wow.
You know, I'm taking my son to school and getting funny looks. You know, my ticket sales went down. Loads of things happen because people are thinking I'm vicious and evil. I'm not going to stand for that, but anyway, that's a legal situation that we're going to have to deal with. Lo and behold, the next 2 days, Wednesday to Thursday, is defence. I put my case forward. I'm in the dock from 10 o'clock in the morning to 4:30. I took the dock from 10 o'clock in the morning to 4:30. Minus 1 hour for lunch. Cross-examine. I can't tell you how many times I was cross-examined. Lo and behold, no verdict. So
no verdict what? Did they put it to the jury and they came back with no verdict?
They came with no verdict because they said they understood. Obviously, they're understanding the case.
This is the jury, is it?
This is the jury.
How long were they out for?
Day.
They cut with a day. They couldn't come to.
No, they couldn't come to.
Okay.
So the case got
acquitted.
Not acquitted, but it got adjourned, and then obviously I had to go back for a second trial. So the prosecution decided to try me again. So they tried me again in August, with which a lot more things came out in that trial. A lot more things came out in that trial, in the sense of the way they cross-examined me for the you know, they came out with, they used a lot more what they considered to be evidence against me, such as the RSPCA lady that went and gathered evidence after and cut away the lead from the actual tree, and she used that as evidence. She said she cut away the evidence. This is just some of the classic things of what I'm talking about happened in the case. She said she cut away the lead from the tree. Now, she's reported that there was loads of blood around the tree, but there was no blood anywhere else. All right. Defence, John Riley, my barrister, asked her, when did she gather this evidence? She said a week later. Okay? Next thing, my barrister asked her, why did you cut the lead away from the tree? She goes, because it was vastly knotted and it was impossible to undo. Okay? My barrister then asked her, in that case, do you think it was possible for a man with one arm to tie the dog to the tree, especially since it's clamped onto his arm? Her answer was, I don't know, I can't pass comment on that. Okay? I took the witness stand, I was cross-examined. Prosecution put it to me that all the blood was by the tree because that's where the incident happened. I said the incident happened away from the tree, and I tied the dog to the tree, and obviously it's bled by the tree.
Back then, obviously, yeah.
They said, well, we believe that the attack only happened, it didn't happen anywhere else, and what can my explanation be for the blood? Well, I'll tell you exactly what I told them. I said I've got 3 answers to that. Answer number 1 is this. If you are chopping up an onion or a vegetable or something on a chopping board and you cut your finger and you rush straight to the bathroom, where's the blood going to be? You're going to get 1 drop of blood on the chopping board, probably, maybe 2. The rest of the blood, the majority is going to be where you're washing your hand. Right? Secondly, you're accusing me of saying that the officers searched for blood and all the blood they found was by the tree. They didn't find blood anywhere else. Well, they must have eyes like rabbits, because I don't know how they could find blood at 12 o'clock at night. Of course they're going to find pints of blood by the tree, because it's congealed and it's in masses.
Yeah.
1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop is not going to be found, is it, in the grass verge?
No.
Point number 3, I was accused via the paper, and I have to take their word for it because I never saw the dog, of chopping off the dog's ear. Well, how is it forensic officers trained in forensics, trained in search tactics, can find massive piles of blood, but yet none of them found the ear? Or is it that they found the ear, no ear was given in evidence? So is it that they found the ear, and that's what I said to the barrister on trial, I said, or is it that the officers did find the ear, but because it wasn't in proximity to the tree, you decided not to hand it in? With that, no answer was given in response. Their evidence was flawed from the beginning. Anyway, went on, and as we know now, it ended up in another, and I actually took this a bit personal, you know, and I'm going to mention these points again in hindsight regarding the case, but I've got another hung jury. I've been waiting since August until now to hear that it's going to be a 3rd trial, with which they've now realised that it was not necessary. They haven't got any new evidence. They've got nothing else to put on me. So what have they done? They've dropped the case basically. They said it's not in the public's interest to press the case. They heard what I've said, and it's not in the interest of press to proceed through the courts. So it's been dropped, and I was found not. I was acquitted by the judge, and all my expenses, praise be to God, has been reimbursed to me, which I haven't received yet, but that's that.
What was the judge's summing up? What did the judge say when the jury came in with no verdict again? What was his summing up of it?
He just said that the prosecution needs to think seriously about how they intend to proceed with this case, and that's all he said, basically.
No conditions put on?
No conditions. I was just given bail.
So the trial basically went on for a week. This is two trials basically took 2 weeks?
Yes.
A week per trial?
Yeah, 13 days in total basically for the 2 trials.
And the money's coming out of taxpayers obviously if you're getting reimbursed?
Well, I've been given a figure that it's cost prosecution £40,000 a case, and it cost me 15 grand in total.
To be represented by a barrister? To be
represented by a barrister, yeah, for this case. Now, here's the issues now. Well, there's a lot of issues, but here's the issues. People are wondering, I've mentioned that I've got a solicitor and I've had a long standing with the solicitor. I'm not an angel. I've been in trouble with the police before, okay? But the relationship between me and Thames Valley Police dates back 3 decades. And just like in that film Hurricane, starring Denzel Washington, I don't know if anyone's seen that film, I believe the hate is deep-seated on their part.
Can you give a reason why? Why would they have hate for you?
The more successful I've become over the years, the now apparent coalition of Thames Valley Police and the Evening Post have set out to discredit me. The underhand tactics used to secure conviction in the case, such as attempting to read out, listen to this, dramatised, unconnected police file arrest notes. Now, I'll explain that to you now. The police, let me give you an example. We all know people who's got shops, don't we? Right. You have a shop. Let's say I'll give you an example. For example, your shop's doing computer repairs. Right. You bring your computer in there to get repaired, you pay for it, next thing you know, the computer doesn't work still. So you're getting an argument with the shopkeeper, right? Oh, you took my money. And some people can be a bit vindictive and go and call the police and say, yeah, you stole my money, you didn't fix my computer, right? Okay. What then happens is they paint a nice picture of what they think, I don't know, Mr. Smith done with their computer. The police have to investigate. Logic. So they go to investigate, but on their notes, they go to investigate, and on their notes it says potential theft by shopkeeper. Okay? Potential theft by shopkeeper. So they go down there to find out that it wasn't nothing untoward. But what they do, because they don't like the shopkeeper, they leave notes on there saying, oh, potential fraudster. on his police file notes. What then happens is 4 or 5 years later, someone decides to buy something from you with a fraudulent credit card. Obviously, then it's going to be investigated, isn't it?
Yep.
But when they go to see that shopkeeper, now it's nothing to do with the shopkeeper, it's the customer. But when they go to speak to that shopkeeper, on his already notes from previous, it says potential fraudster. Now, how is that going to map up with the fact that somebody's just done a credit card fraud with his shop? Their notes, although it was incorrect notes, have been left there because no one polices those notes. The police officer can leave those notes about the police officer, about the member of the public, and they can write whatever they want, but no hierarchy polices those notes. And this is where it's serious, because in court they read out issues about me. They tried to read out my criminal record. Now I thought it was going to be my criminal record they read out in court, and I've got 3 things on my criminal record for fighting when I was a teenager up until 25. All right, a couple of punch-ups. No weapons, no drugs, nothing. All right, a couple of punch-ups.
Just a street fight, basically.
Yeah. What they done, they dramatised on it, and they read out. And what my solicitor said was, they want to read out my criminal record in court. I never had a problem with it because I said I'll defend all those things. 2 crackheads broke into my car. I punched them in the mouth. Police decided to arrest me for it, and obviously I punched him in the mouth, so I'm guilty, am I? Right? Got community service for it. I had another issue with Halifax Bank where I lost my temper. They froze my bank account. I was quite happy to explain all this in court. I don't see that I've done anything wrong, stood up for my rights. Right. My solicitor said, no, Andre, let's finish having lunch. This was prior to the case. Let's finish having lunch and I'll show you what they want to read out. They started reading out incidences to do with tenants, where I've had arguments with tenants. They started reading out incidents that happened the previous year. I said, what are you talking about? Police interviewed me about that. I told them what happened and they didn't press it. There was other incidents where I got into punch-ups and where, I'm sorry it might sound aggressive, but I knocked the person out. They then went to the police and said, Andre attacked me with a weapon, Andre done this. Pure lies, no proof.
Why can they do that?
No, but hold on a minute. Well, members of the public can do what they want. So what they've done that. It's gone to court. It's gone to court because of what they said. 2 independent witnesses were looking out the window and told me prior to the case that they saw what happened. They came to court, gave evidence saying that I gave him 1 punch, knocked him out. The guy got up and ran off. Right? No weapon was ever used. Right? The case got kicked out of court. But the police, now this is the point that I'm going to mention now, the police kept the lies on my arrest sheet. So that every time my name's mentioned, they have this picture of me. One of the things on my arrest sheet was, McIntyre hit me, knocked me down, and then proceeded to stab me 15 times in my stomach. I'm reading from fact. Right? Now I turned to my solicitor and I goes, what case was that? He said, no knife, because I remember that case. That's the case where the 2 witnesses turned up. He said, no knife was even mentioned by the victim. Right? They wanted to read that out. Now my point to you is this now. How can you attempt to stab someone 15 times in the stomach? Surely you either stab him or you don't. So either he got stabbed 15 times, or you attempted to stab him, or McIntyre held a knife to me. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? How can you attempt to stab someone 15 times? Surely if the first stab didn't happen, where did you get to number 15? Right. These are the sort of things they tried to read out. These are the sort of things they tried to read out in court. But the judge weren't having none of it. The judge clipped that it was just fabrication.
Vindictive.
It's vindictive. But this is something they're allowed to apply to the court to do now. So somebody with lesser I'll use the word savvy than I've got, right, would be ripped apart in that case, especially now that from next year there's no legal aid. So if there's going to be a lot of people representing themselves now in court, and these are the underhand tactics CPS, Crime Prosecution Service, and the police are now using against people. This thing is serious. I weren't having it. I paid legal. I paid my fees, and I had a proper solicitor.
What, no legal aid standard? What, doesn't it?
Legal aid is not standard anymore now. If you earn over a certain amount, I think it's 25 grand, don't quote me on that, you can't get legal aid.
But there's standard legal aid there though for the low income people.
For low income people, there is a set figure which they can get for legal aid, which means now that they're going to get rubbish service, in theory.
Well, yeah, you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. This case has shown me that there's some serious failings that have been left to fester deliberately or negligently. And to be honest with you, the way I'm feeling right now, I'm fully intent on rectifying and eradicating these issues to the best of my ability. Some of the main issues with this case which have come to light is Britain's dogs laws now, which is what this topic is about. When a dog attacks someone, the police, and I say Thames Valley Police because this is the area I live in, turn up sometimes the next day. Or many hours later, if they do turn up, as in the case with my case, isn't it? They turned up how many hours later? And we was at the hospital, they didn't turn up at all to take photos or evidence either. And my point is, I don't think that's acceptable. Do we not pay their wages? They're civil servants. Do we not pay their wages? We wouldn't put up with this from a waiter at a restaurant. So why are we putting up with it from them? I
think it's not a case of putting up with them. It's just a case of that. A lot of people don't know any better.
Right.
Like with you would point out some things and you would spot for certain things. Other people, they'd be like, okay, don't worry about it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When they know they can get away with it with certain people, they will.
There's another point. There's so many points I could mention regarding this, but I think Thames Valley Police have been under a radar for a long, long time. It's always the Mets. You always hear about Mets. But I think, to be honest with you, I think racism is very prevalent in Thames Valley Police. Yes, they've got a couple of black police officers there. They've got a couple of Asian police officers there, but that don't mean they're not racist. And I actually think there are some underlying feelings regarding officers in the force as a whole. I'm not talking individually. I'm talking as a whole. I think it's institutionalised within that police force, and I think that needs to be looked at also.
It's a bold statement. Can you back it up with anything?
I can back it up with a lot of things. For example, how I've been treated over the years. You know, I've been called coon and nigger and Sambo by the police before in the past. You know, in fact, the one time I went to prison, I done 6 months for banging out coppers because they tried to put handcuffs on me and call me Sambo and tried to arrest me for driving my own car. The only reason they got away with it is because one of them being my cousin, but my 2 witnesses that saw what happened didn't turn up at court. They missed the court case, and because of that they managed to get away with it for me. That's the only time I got done, back in 1994, and it was because they called me Sambo and Coon and tried to arrest me for driving my own car. And I'm sure there's thousands of people that can relate to racism with Thames Valley Police. That's my issue that's another issue I've got. Also, the other point I've got here is the inability to gather evidence impartially, correctly and efficiently. And that was proven by the fact they didn't even turn up at the hospital to take evidence. They went there, they pictured what they wanted to picture, and they worked with it. As they keep telling you in an interview, and if anybody has the find themselves in a misunfortunate situation to be interviewed by the police, they like to say to you in the interview, oh, we're not here to judge, we're just here to gather evidence. Right, well, if you gather evidence, where's the photos in of Mr. Jack's arm that got bitten by the dog then? Or where's the evidence regarding that? When was your interview to ask what happened to the dog? Is it because the dog don't talk and you can't get arrested, don't go on your arrest sheet, so you're not interested in arresting the dog? So you decided, right, well, we can arrest humans, we can't arrest dogs, so let's just go with that. It was not... I'm in the process of making a complaint to the Police Complaints Committee regarding this, because they certainly did not gather evidence impartially, correctly and efficiently. Okay?
To your recollection.
Well, they didn't, did they? Did they turn up at the hospital? Soggy.
Can I just stop you there? Obviously, you still got a lot of things to get off your chest regarding this matter. You're not happy still, even though they've the courts have dropped it or whatever it may be. What motivates you to keep pursuing this now? Okay, you're going to argue, your case to say that you're right, but what are you going to benefit from it?
It doesn't matter.
Is it just
it doesn't matter. I'm not going to benefit nothing. The whole thing, chasing them down over it might even bankrupt me. But I'm the type of person, different people come from different molds in society, and I've been...
So I just want to say, it's probably scarred your reputation as a... But people obviously thought, being caught, you're guilty, and people probably saying, well done, Andre.
Well, the thing is, I think what Soggy said now, about the reputation side. You see, people have two ways of looking at this. It's like, oh yeah, that's what he's like anyway. Or they can say, you've done the right thing. People always want to say...
You're portrayed as a violent person. Obviously, you're getting armed response, people kicking down your doors, looking for you.
I told you about the intel file, didn't I? That they have every time they click on people on the... every time a name comes up and they check on their radio, this file comes up for them. Right? And it's just... This is what I'm trying to tell you, the seriousness of this. It's an intel file which is not right, which is my next point, which I was going to say to you actually. The intel file needs to be dealt with, but we'll talk about that anyway. The other point, so I was saying basically their inability to gather evidence correctly. The other point I've got on here also is Thames Valley Police's response times to calls in general is slow. It's not 10 minutes, sometimes it's hours. And my whole point for going down there with the dog, to deal with the dog before I called the police to tell them what happened, was because how long, 5 shakes of the head and the kid's arm could have been written off. Mm-hmm. Where have you got 2 hours to turn up for that? It's an immediate thing. It was 3 blocks down.
Obviously that point has been obviously brought up in court. Mm. What's their explanation to that?
Nothing, because I'm on trial, so we need to answer the questions, not them.
Oh, so they just basically said we're the ones asking the questions, they're not you.
Basically.
Okay. Mm.
Alright?
And that's how they washed that away?
Yeah.
Okay.
So unless
that's why I'm pressing it now.
Yeah, I see that now. Unless he doesn't press it, they're just going to get away with it.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Now, getting to what Soggy just picked up on, the suspect intel file. A very flawed and abused collection of personal logs submitted by, could be, potentially hateful officers with chips on their shoulders, who are clearly allowed to log info on members of the public's data files without any debate or interception from any senior party. This then paves the way for future officers to continue the hate campaign and take up where the last officer left off, so to speak. And this clearly needs to be addressed, as in my case, more than half the logs that I've listed on my intel file were dramatised to arouse the reader's emotions. Alright? And they tried to use that against me. Not convictions, we're talking about just being arrested for certain things, right? Could be used against me in court. I think the law's gone crazy. Let us not forget, the written word is the most powerful tool of all. And I think that's important because what they're reading is
affecting their thought process.
I've got another point. This didn't apply to me, luckily, because my case started in May 2012, but the law was passed in November of last year, 2012. Yeah. All right, and I've made a note here from court. Expenses. The law is such now that anyone can be charged with something and will have to pay their own legal fees. This very affects everybody now. But if they win the case, the Crown will only pay them back 60% of their costs. Now, this is not only not fair, but now gives the police branches the facility to bankrupt members of the public who they are potentially taking a disliking to, by simply pressing charges on them for whatever the reason or background evidence, as in my previous cases. Now, many of you may not know this, but many others may think that this does not apply to you, but this affects us all. On principle alone, it's going to affect us. You know, e.g. a burglar could break into your home while you're sleeping, and in defence you end up hitting him, killing him, whatever. Well, you too could end up in the same situation I'm in, with escalating court fees. Now, this may not shock you, I don't know, but Britain's judicial system is a business. It's a business that sees barristers and judges living in some of Britain's most affluent parts of the country. Why? Well, in my view, because CPS and police cream off the general public's sufferings. Imagine if I get burgled or I get beaten up, the culprit gets jail, I get reimbursed my losses, but the barrister and the judges end up with, and wait for this, £1,000 a day fees for representing the for both parties. It's a major business to them. They're making more money than the victims. You know, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be paid and they shouldn't earn money, but you know, the whole system of this legal aid thing is going out of hand, and I think that needs to be addressed also. And this is another point which I think affects us all, because anybody can be charged with something, and then spiraling cost is going to hit them, and there's no legal aid. You're only going to get 60% of the back of your money. If my case had happened post November, I would have had to. I would have only got 8,000 back out of the 15,000 for something when I'm innocent in the first place.
Shouldn't have been out to you. I got a couple of texts in. One saying, "Andre, do you have any regrets of the actions you took against the dog? In hindsight, would you have not done what you did to the dog?"
Okay.
But obviously you touched on that earlier, saying that you were given no choice.
Well, I was given no choice, but I'll be honest with you, my view of things is this: I don't believe anything should die. You know, I have got, you know, fighting is one thing, but killing is a very, it's a very final act. I don't believe in war. You know, I think war is too. If you've got a problem with somebody, you can make up for it. How many times have you fallen out with somebody? You know, and this is why I don't want to see England turn into America with gun laws, etc. Because a lot of arguments don't go from push to shove; it goes from push to kill. And you know, 6 years down the line, the two of you are friends again. When we all mature, we're all friends. You can't make friends again with somebody that is now dead. You know, everything. So I know it's just a dog; it's not a human being. But my view still rests with that. I don't believe in killing anything unless it's for food. You know, that is my view. The dog, I would want to see the dog die. But to be honest with you, you know, that text message kind of tells me that I don't think the person's understanding. But I didn't go down there to hit the dog.
That's what I think I'm trying to clarify.
I don't think they understand that point. I went down there to remove the dog and to save other potential threats to people.
Andre,
no, sorry. Let me introduce.
Thank you.
Right, we've got Brother Julian in the studio. Julian has been sitting very patiently. We've actually got a very interesting show lined up, and I'm hoping Julian would be a part of the team as well, because he's got quite interesting look on things.
I'm happy to be here. It's half as interesting as what Andre has come out with tonight.
Oh, definitely. We always like to discuss things that no one else wants to talk about. You always like to say as it is.
The best radio is emotions, and it's the way it is.
And coming back to Julian. Hopefully in a few weeks' time, Julian's actually had experience in the West Bank. He's been to Palestine. He's been there for a few months actually. So he's been there on ground level. And he's a religious studies teacher as well at secondary school. So he's very good at comparative religions, I believe. He also likes to do a bit of debating. Yeah. So he's not a Muslim. But he's a religious studies teacher, and he has been to the West Bank, and he is a sympathizer to the Palestinian cause, I believe. So inshallah, in a few weeks' time we'll have him as a guest. But obviously today is about Andre.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it so far?
On the back of that text and what Andre just said, I was just wondering, had you shown up to the situation empty-handed and killed the dog, same outcome, and you probably have had a few gashes and wounds to show for it, would they still have the same case against you? Is it still killing an animal, or is it the fact that the weapon has been used? Because it's the same outcome, isn't it? What do you think?
It's a good point. I don't know how to answer it, to be honest with you. I think it would have been a lesser case for them had I been
free-handed, basically.
Yeah, but
they're doing it for a weapon.
Well, in theory, to answer that question, there wouldn't have been a case. And I tell you why there wouldn't have been a case. Because I couldn't have killed the dog with my bare hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would have been impossible to kill the dog with my bare hands.
Well, let's say you picked up a stick that you found by
that couldn't kill the dog. That would have been able to kill the
Or
dog.
found a machete by the tree. Well, of some scenario, you killed the dog without going there with a weapon.
As far as I'm aware, Andre, you didn't kill the dog. They put the dog down due to the injuries.
Well, I killed the dog.
Okay, if you want to see it, okay.
You know,
yeah, obviously they put him down for a reason because they couldn't.
I don't think, had I gone down there empty-handed, I would have been another victim, and the dog would still be by the tree, and it would have just been another statistic on the another 2 people bitten by a dog. It would have been another news story. 2 people this week. It was Jack and Andre that got attacked by a dog, and next week it was John Smith in Portsmouth that got attacked by a dog. Do you understand? It was just been, and as you know, they didn't get tried for their cases when they got attacked by the dog. The dog would have been still alive. The police would have put it down.
You mentioned the breed of the dog earlier on. Is that a legal breed in the UK?
Great question.
It is, and with, as far as I'm concerned, it is a legal breed.
Some are borderline, aren't they?
Yeah.
I wonder, had it been a pit bull or one of the illegal breeds, would that have changed the outcome? Because when this happens and the police arrive, the police do what they call destroy the animal. They take the animal, kill the animal, whether it's attacking them or not. So I just wonder what would have happened had it been an illegal breed.
In answer to that, I mean, Barbara, you mentioned the fact that you've been watching some videos, some police videos.
Yeah.
There is a police video, and I'll quote it. If you type Newham police dog attack into YouTube, you will see that 2 police officers attended a property, and a member of the public filmed it, and the dog basically ran out the house and latched onto a police officer's hand. A member of the public tried to hit the dog across the head with a stick. The dog latched on even harder, and the other officer ran off and left the officer there to be attacked by the dog. Now in my interview they asked me if I thought what I took out of the warehouse to be excessive, and I said, look, and my answer and I'll answer exactly how I answered to the police officer. I said to the officer, I use the law as a guideline in my life. It's a guideline, but to me, common sense sometimes outweighs what I consider to be the law. I have my own interpretation of violence and levels of violence, and it starts with 1 being the least and 5 being the most severe. And level 1 violence for me is verbal. I think you do stand a 10% chance of dying from verbal. If somebody's got a weak heart, they could get a heart attack whilst you're shouting having a go at home. So I put that at 5% chance. It's very unlikely, as we all know, but I put it at a 5% chance you could die from an heart attack. People have died from a heart attack from being shouted at under stress, right? Right. Level 2 attack for me is someone using their body as a weapon, i.e. punching, kicking, whatever, right? Catch somebody in the wrong part of their head, hit them in the heart, whatever, they could die, right? And I put that at 20 to 30% chance of dying from violence, from someone using their own body as a weapon. Level 3 attack for me of level of violence is someone using a blunt instrument for a weapon, such as, I don't know, a chair, a bat, hammer, whatever, something blunt instrument. Catch someone in the head, you could kill him, and I put that 50% chance of dying. Then after that, you got grade 4 attack, which I consider to be a bladed article. You know, something that could puncture the body in some shape or form, catch a major artery, person bleed to die, bleed to death. We all hear it, and I put that at between 70 and 90% chance of dying. And when I told the officer between 80 and 100%, 80 and 95% chance of dying is by guns. That's my level 5, attack. Officer, you're telling me, but you expected me to take a level 3 defense, i.e. a blunt weapon, to defend myself against a level 4 attack coming from this dog. I goes, it wasn't, for somebody who had the chance to sit there and to think about the situation, that wasn't logical. I believe I picked up the right tool for the right situation.
Okay. Right. The way I see this is the police are, scapegoating you or whatever it might be, because a dangerous dog got killed or a dog got killed that wasn't dangerous, or however they want to put a spin on it. What is your actual take on people who actually do keep dangerous dogs and actually use them to intimidate people? What's your take on that, and how should the police deal with stuff like that?
Okay, well, first of all, the laws need to be addressed, and But obviously, what am I supposed to say? It's logical. Everybody knows that dangerous dogs should not be used in that way. Dogs should not be used that way. I keep hearing a lot of arguments on the internet. It's not the dog, it's the owner. It's not the dog, it's the owner. And, a lot of people say this, and a lot of dog lovers will come out with that kind of comment. Well, I think the law is quite simple, and what needs to be done is very simple. It's not hard, and I said it in the paper just last week. They're complexing the whole thing when it's not even a complex thing. All they need to do is to pass a law that unless a dog is in your garden, a secured garden, or in your house, or in a car, right? All dogs should be muzzled in a public place. It's not hard, right? I don't care if it's a Chihuahua. All dogs should be muzzled in a public place. What makes a dog with teeth but don't talk any less dangerous than a man walking down the street with a flip knife in his pocket? You're not allowed to walk down the street with a knife in your pocket.
You're not allowed anymore, yeah.
Yeah, you're not. Right. But no one wants to say you was going to attack anyone with that knife, but police pull you up and you've got that on you, you're going to prison. Right. What makes a dog that you don't know? I mean, it could have just got bit by a wasp for all you know, and it's happened, right? But dogs, got irritated by it and then they flip because it's irritating them. Yeah. Or worse still, dogs have attacked people because it was hot. Because of sunstroke and stuff like this. It don't talk. And, some people say, yeah, but you can tell because the tail's wagging. Well, a pit bull's tail wag and they still bite you. I'm not hearing it. A simple law should be all dogs should be muzzled in a public place.
Right, okay, I was just reading an article. It was a recent article in a newspaper. I won't see which newspaper. But it was saying that the government wants to implement stronger sentences for dog attacks or attacks by dangerous dogs. But the RSPCA, they're saying that you can give a dog owner 20 years or whatever for injuring someone or killing someone. But that's not the problem. The problem is how these dogs are being groomed by their owners.
Yes.
This is the issue.
Yes.
And they're saying unless you don't tackle that issue, these things are going to happen continuously. There's a figure of over 200,000 dog bite incidents in the UK alone every year. 200,000.
16 people have been killed. It was read out in court. 16 people have been killed by a dog since 2007 in this country.
I mean, just a few months ago, there's a young teenage girl. She got bitten to death by about a dozen, what would you call them, Staffordshire Bull Terriers or whatever it was. They all just jumped her.
Look, the RSPCA woman's correct, and I think that needs to be addressed. You've got to address that point. The way these dogs are being groomed.
But, the thing what you said about muzzling all dogs, I think is a very good point. But because we're so soft in this country, we want to treat everything humane.
It doesn't affect him. It's not going to affect him.
We want to treat everything humane. And the thing is, when you start muzzling dogs and you get extreme dog lovers, they'll say, oh, you can't do that. It's going to be uncomfortable for it or her or she or whatever it is, So, but the thing is, this is the society we live in.
I know.
Once you start doing that, you're going to get protests happening.
Not necessarily, because I think not necessarily, but I do think people will protest, but how? I don't think it's going to be anything as severe as some of the other protests we had, because it's actually a logical thing. Look, your child, my child, 2 years old, walking around in the park.
Yeah.
I'm not being, I don't forgive, stop it from happening. But imagine walking in the park with your child. Dog runs up, mauls your kid, scarred for life, right? And in this society where looks is everything, your son's scarred for life, your daughter's scarred for life. The owner turns around and says, "Oh, I'm sorry," or the police owner says, "Sorry, it was the owner. It's the way that he groomed the dog." 1, 2. Sorry, other excuse. Sorry, the dog had sunstroke and just flipped. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know about you, Barbara, but for me, you can keep your sorry, because sorry ain't gonna erase the scar. Muzzle the dog. Yes, deal with the owners, but it's not going to help me. It's not going to take away any scars. I don't want to hear an excuse. Oh, it's the owner. Oh, it's the dog.
Why are we leaving rooms for excuses?
Exactly. That's the whole point. Yes, I agree with the RSPCA. Let's deal with the owners. But alongside that, let's deal with the issue. And the issue is we need to take away that potential threat. And the way to take away that potential threat is by simply putting a muzzle on the dog.
Yeah.
He can run around in the garden without... You see, now, there was an incident in Portsmouth where a child's ball went over someone's garden and he jumped over the garden to get it, and the 2 dogs ran out of the house, and the owner wasn't in. He obviously had the back door open. The dogs ran out of the house and killed the kid. That's unfortunate, but I don't blame the dogs for that. Dogs are guard dogs. It's their duty to protect the owner and to protect their surroundings. That was unfortunate. That I don't think you can cater for. He had signs up saying dangerous dog. The kid still jumped in the garden. That's unfortunate. That doesn't come under this panel conversation as far as I'm concerned. But I'm talking about, where do people get off with a dog attacking someone in a public? You went to the park to play on swings. You didn't intend to go there to end up in the hospital.
That's right.
Owner or bad owner, dogs need to be muzzled.
So if you'd called the RSPCA, they'd probably got there quicker than the police, and maybe they would have dealt with it differently. Another issue about, like you said, not going to a level 3 violent situation with the level 2 preparation, or level 4, was a severe situation that you were going to. Would there be any regret about going there alone? You showed up alone, right, with a weapon. Might it have been better to go at least with another person? I know this is all hindsight. It's very easy to say it.
Yeah.
After the incident, had you been with another person, they might have been a witness to what happened, and they might have made your case better for you. I know it's very hindsight, but it's just a.
I sort of agree with it, but I do understand where you're coming from. But if it were me, I'm Asian, so we're scared of dogs anyway. You're not going to see me go there.
Look, what I will say is this. All I can do, that was a very hindsight point you came out with, but I'll mark it out on the table. We were here, at this side of the table. The incident happened at the other end of the table. It was an immediate, is the dog chewing up somebody right now? Absolutely. That was the point. If I've got time to be calling people up on the telephone and say, get down here right now, then I had time to tell the police to get down there right now. I never had time for that. It was a fact of, let's rush down there, someone's drowning. Yeah. Do you understand? Yeah. Someone's drowning. You don't get time to call the police if someone's drowning. You've got to jump in and save them right now and call them afterwards. Or tell somebody else, you call the police, let me jump in. The other thing, they kept putting it on me. Andre, why didn't you call the police before you went down there? Why didn't you do that? Hold on a minute, I was at home watching TV. I get a phone call. The dog didn't attack me. Why is it all on me? Wasn't it for the owner to turn around to call up and say, listen, my dog attacked me, can you... As far as I'm concerned, he had already called the police. It wasn't until he told me where he tied the dog up when I realised maybe he hasn't called the police yet, but it wasn't actually a topic of conversation. It became an issue for me to call the police when the dog attacked me. and when I hit it, and when I had to leave it still in a public place. Do you understand? Because then I knew it couldn't have been taken from that area at that time, under that situation, and police was definitely needed. But prior to that, maybe the dog would have wagged its tail and everything would have been happy, and it would have been out over there, and you know, hopefully Jack would have been able to get his money back by taking the dog back to the original and say, look, I'm not looking after this, look what he done to me, give me back my money. Do you understand? You can obviously control it better than I can. It wasn't my decision to make that decision. Do you understand? It wasn't my dog to make that decision. It was Jack to make that decision, and whether he wanted to continue to look after it or not look after it.
And Soldier, is it the police that are prosecuting you, or the owner of the dog? Who has a case against you? Yeah.
Great question.
It was the police. It was the police.
So basically, the owner of the dog, he really got enough to say with it. It's just the police pursuing this.
It was the police pursuing it. Yes.
I think, okay, that's surprising, because I think an issue here is the attachment that we have to animals in this country and the culture of being animal lovers. Another hindsight, hypothetical scenario, I know there's a lot of what ifs, but you could have been attacked by a fox and killed a fox with a knife. In that situation, I'm sure the police would have said, so what? You were attacked. But I think it's this ownership, and that's someone's pet. We put people's pets above children.
That's like family as well. That is like family. But the thing is here, the actual owner of the dog, he's not pursuing anything. Yeah. So if say for example, if you kill someone's dog and it was a beloved dog of the family or whatever, and you killed it, and the actual owners were pursuing it, then you could say, okay, there might be a case going on here. Yeah. But it's nothing to do with that. It's the police pursuing it. But they showed up a week late.
The owner of the dog got tried, arrested, and banged up within 3 days.
Yeah, but that's the whole point. That's what I'm telling you. There's some deep-seated thing going on. They done that to secure their case against me.
So you think it was all on you?
It was all on me. It was all on me. Because why would you do that? He got bit by a dog. Why would you switch it? Why would you do that? I'm dying to get hold of Jack. You know, I don't even know if he's still in the country, to find out what it is, because I got a feeling he never had even my solicitors have said to me they don't understand how we get locked up like that. You know, what did he say? What did they say to him? You know,
what did he say to criminate himself? To
right.
I mean, he
wasn't even there when the incident happened.
But you've already explained, you know, Jack's personality. You know, very weak English, very shy, very thingy. You know, if you don't know how to defend yourself, you know, in a formal situation, you just go with whatever. You know, it just happens. You know, they'll
put things on you.
Yeah, they'll put you on you, and then you just break it. Okay, please take me to jail.
Switching the subject just slightly, but it's to do with the case again. Still, I've got a question. Why is there a lack of black people doing jury service in this country?
Because they mainly that got clear. Well, I've got careful what I say. I'll take that back. Reverse, rewind, into my mouth.
Well,
before I get myself into trouble.
Is it because they tick the box, or is it because they tick the racial identification box?
No, they know what box they
do jury service.
Well, I think. Well, let the white man.
There's a lack of white people on one of my. I'm making up for that tonight. But there's a couple of issues here. It's no surprise to hear that perhaps the police might have been racist. Really, they told us 10 years ago that they have a problem of institutionalised racism. So that's not a surprise. So when a black person who's been dealt with police says, "I feel there's been racism," if it's in this country, I'm never going to doubt that. I'd be surprised if there wasn't. I think there's a lot of stereotyping that goes on. You've been discriminated against not just because of the colour of your skin, also because of the sport that you're part of. That strikes to me. I mean, had it been the local vicar who bopped the dog over the head with a walking stick, there wouldn't be a case.
Oh, I don't know, maybe.
Well, maybe. You never know.
Might say that's a terrorist attack or something.
Well, yeah, probably. But
well, not the vicar, they wouldn't.
Yeah,
an extreme Christian attack.
No, if you had a beard and had a hat on, yes, he's a terrorist.
Well, yeah, local black Thai kickboxer kills dog with a machete.
That was
It's
the
a
headline.
great headline.
But do you think it's just a great story? I mean, for the newspapers, it's just
For
a
the
great
newspaper
story.
it is, but for him it's his life.
Yeah.
And for the police, they come out of it. Yeah, we got the bad guy.
Yeah.
They're happy. The press are
The
happy.
police come out of it thinking we've made an example of somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they thought they were going to make an example. They didn't obviously turn out that way because I won the case. But I just want to tell everyone here, but I have no criminal record for weapons or the use of weapons. Okay. But yet, every time the police, this is a point now which is affecting me. Every time the police decide to attend my premises to arrest me for whatever the reason they decide to concoct up to arrest me, they do so in the early hours of the morning, which is when they normally make their arrest, and armed to the teeth with machine guns, etc., etc. Well, lucky for me, I'm never in when they come to my property. So they never get the chance to really arrest me. But as soon as they turn up and I'm not in, they call me up. Andre, can you come in?
Why wouldn't they call you in the first place?
Well, that's my whole point.
This is what I'm asking you. Why have you not asked them? Why do you not call me instead of slamming my door down?
Oh, well, we was just giving it, we didn't know we had the telephone number or whatever rubbish. I can't even remember what rubbish they came out.
Okay.
But my point is that this is what worried me now, and I want it publicly known on the radio station. I'm going to be putting up even on my thing now. What if I was in?
This is what my question was earlier.
Right.
Obviously clarify. This is what scared me. What reaction?
Right.
You're not the type of person that's going to sit there. You're just going to go guns blazing and they got live.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
I think you would.
No, I wouldn't.
I think you're short fused. I think they can push you by just saying that.
No, because if the police come into the house, they're obviously coming there for a reason.
Yeah.
Right, so in terms of what the reason is no. I know the procedure. You go down to the police station, you explain your case, they have to give you bail.
Okay, let me put this to you. Let me put this to you. Middle of night, you're relaxing at home with your son. Please come down, fire rounds, tools up, kick your door down. You're going to sit there and take it.
Soggy, they've done it to me before, when I was a teenager.
Yeah, well, what, you sit there and you take it out?
No, I put my hands up and said, what the hell's going on?
Oh, okay, that's fine. Sorry, I just pictured you just...
No. What, if I see the police on their helmet or police on the... and I know it's police, if it's 4 marks men that look like IRA walking through my door with balaclavas on, I'm gonna smash someone. But it's not. Police coming in, police. Obviously, I know it's police, isn't it? That's not the issue.
Okay.
My issue is, what if I was in? These times they're kicking off the door with guns blazing. Alright? After seeing how they've handled certain cases connected to me over the years, you know, it's worrying me. And my point, what I want to say now, which I've strayed off the point now, if they catch me at home alone, am I going to end up like Smiley Culture?
Can you explain what happened to Smiley Culture? I know what happened, but to the listeners out there...
Right. Smiley Culture was allegedly arrested in his property for drugs.
Well, let's give a background to who Smiley Culture was.
Smiley Culture done the police officer song back in the days.
Mr. Officer.
Yeah. Police officer, then give me producer, that song, right? Yeah.
He's a famous musician.
He was a famous musician. Smiley Culture was arrested for drugs, I think about a year ago.
I think it was a couple of years ago.
Was it that long?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago. Now, they arrested him. Okay. Now, obviously when they're arresting now, they have to do a search inside the property, as far as I'm aware. That's what I see on TV anyway. They do a search when it's to do with drugs. Well, obviously he would have been sat in the house, handcuffed. They reckon he broke loose from the handcuffs, ran in the kitchen and stabbed himself.
That's it. Yeah, grabbed the kitchen knife and stabbed himself.
Alright. And then on top of that, I forgot the chap's name who started the London riots. Is it not Paul Dugan?
Mark Duggan.
Mark Duggan, right? Yeah. He was sat in the car.
That's happening at the moment, isn't it?
Well, that case.
Exactly the case.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, it's happening.
All I'm going to say is, shot in a taxi. He never had a firearm or nothing on him. Now, I'm saying, am I wrong with that? That's what
no. It's as we speak. It's the trial of the officer that said that I saw him with a shotgun, and hence I shot him. And when I approached him, the gun was in there. So
okay, this is my take on this, and I want everyone to publicly know this, and I intend to write to someone about it because it's actually worrying me. I believe I can envisage police kicking in my door early hours of the morning. Police, 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 don't move. No one's in there except me. 2 shots in my chest. Mr. McIntyre's dead. And then the headline is world champion dangerous TIE fighter is dead after police went to his house. Apparently Mr. McIntyre went to get something, blah blah blah, and in the fracas Mr. McIntyre was shot, right? And in that, and with my history of being a world champion, they put it down, but I'm dangerous, right? And it would just get brushed under the car, no, I'm home alone. There's no witnesses to answer to, and I'll be dead like Smiley culture, and it will all be, like I said, all brushed under the carpet. Andre was a violent TIE fighter. We had no choice to shoot him. I'm actually now frightened for my safety, because I just make it wanted to be probably known I've never killed anybody. I've never used any weapons. I'm not known for drugs.
Why is this vendetta against you? Why is it so personal?
Well, I think it's because I've had, like I said to you, I've had issues with the police before when I was a teenager.
I'm sure that those police officers are moved on, gone on onto other forces and what have you not.
Yes, Soggy, but we go back to what I said earlier on. What did I say earlier on? The police intel file stores information from 2 decades ago, and that is on there. McIntyre is dangerous, McIntyre done this, McIntyre done that, we can't put handcuffs on him because he refused, blah blah blah.
Okay, everything's there.
Whatever they put on there, I don't know what was all on there. It's I only got a sneak preview into what they've got on file from my case when they read it out to the judge. I was in shock. 15 times stabbing.
The guy stood there counting you going for
never had a knife in my hand.
For 15, you went for it 15 times. You sat there, he stood there counting 1, 2, 3.
And survived.
With no stab wounds. So that's my case. That's my issues, and I think we can see that a lot of those points could affect us all.
Most definitely. I mean, very insightful. We got a detailed description of the events, and also some of the information that was in the case as well. Some of the details of the case. It's a very difficult situation to be in. Some people might have dealt with it differently. Some people might agree with him. Some people might not agree with him. But we don't know. We don't know how do we put a conclusion to this?
Not guilty and acquitted.
Well, that's what happened.
Basically, there you go. Not guilty, walked away with 2. Not guilty once, not guilty twice. Twice the jury couldn't come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's an issue there. And like Andre touched on, why have we not got any mixed race people on the juries? Why is that, MT Julian? Why do you think? How is the jury selected? You've got to have non-criminal record and non-CCJs and stuff like that?
Yeah, but I've spoken to people, like older generation people that have done jury service years ago, and they said to me, although they pick you out random, you kind of realise that everybody kind of looks similar on that case. So is it really that random? For example, all of us in here might like rice and peas. So I'm picking people, I've got a food tasting thing. Yeah. All of a sudden, everybody in here likes rice and peas. Or everybody likes rice. Some of us like peas. There's no one in here that only eats pasta. Do you get what I'm trying to say? If you can't understand what I'm saying. There's a kind of gelling. So how do they know that kind of gelling? And what the point I touched on earlier when I said, is it because they tick the box? Why is there no black people on juries? Is it because they tick the box, or is it because they tick the racial box? I don't know if you noticed, but the electoral form, does it not ask you what ethnicity you are?
Most things do.
Right.
Everything does.
Everything
does.
Right.
Most things.
Well, most things, even in the passport, what do you describe yourself as? British Pakistani, British West Indian.
How do you know that ain't used for things such as jury service.
Well,
Not to say there's no black people doing jury service, there is the occasional one, but when you look at the statistics,
They're not put the old total one in, don't they?
Do they do it by the area that you live in, or nationally? If you live in a predominantly black area, will the jury be taken from the local area? The jury's 12 people, right?
it's 12 people, but I think what happens is
from what certain.
but they select a certain amount and then they just pick people at random out of that set, but they've got coming to court. That's how I understand it.
I think there's 16 turn up and they select 12.
No, they've got like 50 turn up and then
Oh,
they pick
really?
people, that's what I heard, and it's for the whole court. They pick different people up for the whole. That's how I heard it, but I don't know how true that is. All I can say is all I can say is, you know, there's a lot of points here which you can't deny aren't good points, and it's things I've noticed from my case that have come to light, and I think there should be more should be looked into these points, because I think it's going to affect us all. It's not done and dusted just with the dog case. It could affect, you know, I think you're going to hear a lot more about this, and even my legal team agree that there's going to be more of these points coming up in future.
What about men and women on the jury? Was it 50-50, or do you remember?
I think it was maybe slightly more women than men, to be honest with you. But I think
that's a good thing, because women are emotional.
Exactly. Why?
Some women.
No. That's
good point.
This is the thing, when you go down the route of quotism, you're going to say, well, I hope there was one gay person there. There better have been a shopkeeper. If there wasn't a teacher, I'm going to be annoyed. You know, you'll end up with a red Indian, a cowboy, and a builder, and you've got the village people putting you on trial. I think 12 people randomly selected from this country. You could be unlucky. You could get 12 idiots, or you could get 12 people that have common sense and I know justice hasn't been done, but you haven't been found guilty. That's a good thing. That restores a little bit of faith.
Yes. You are right with that. What I will say is, a lot of people, when I've told them about the case, they turn around and said, I would have shot it, I would have done this. Now, a lot of people say that they ain't even got a gun. But the thing is, a lot of people say things like this. I think your first instinct, and normally when I tell people, I got there and asked him, where is the dog now? He said, tied to the tree by the kids' playground. First thing they do is, they give me that look, right? You know, eyes blazing. What? Tied to the tree? You have to protect the kids. But the truth is and I use this term, I might be using the wrong term, but, you know, it's up for everybody to look into themselves. It's for everybody to look into themselves and think what they want to think. But I do think we're living in a society now where a lot of people I don't know if it's the right word I'm going to use, but weaselly. I do think people put themselves first before they put others. A lot of people say they would help others, they would do this, they would do that, but the truth is, and it was apparent on the jury, I would have just called the police and gone home and waited and left it to the police to deal with.
Who turned up 7
2 to 3 hours later, right?
7 days later, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, but what about regarding the dog? Yeah, but that is what society does. We're living in a society now, but they're not the type to go forward. They're not assertive no more. They are, is sheepish the right word to use? But they just follow the flock. But a lot of people, they don't want to think they are, but they are like that. And that's the problem we've got right now. And that's where this case has come about.
People don't want to be involved in scenarios where, you know, it's messing up their timetable, or it's going to mess up their, you know, their situation. Because,
Baba, right now after this case, I don't blame them.
Yeah, so you know that. This case has taken 12 months of your life. You know, anyone else, they probably said, you know what, the dog's there, the gate's there, let me just call the police, I'm going home.
Baba, I've lost about £28,000 in fight fees, you know, in fight purses due to this case where I haven't been able to compete, etc. It has been a major loss to me. And the biggest loser in this is the kids I've been teaching, because I had to cut their lesson short from last year because my brain wasn't in the right frame of mind to teach them.
But now, you know, there's two ways you can look at this. You know, obviously you can look at it as a positive or negative. I think now, you know, you're in a position where, you know, you've got this behind you now. I know there's certain things that you still want to press on regarding, the police issues and how they treated you, which is fine. You have every right to do that. But what are you going to do with yourself now? Now you've got this behind you, because in regards to your career, you've always used certain things. This happened, that happened, this happened. So now you've got this issue behind you. Obviously, there's always going to be issues, but this is a major issue that was actually taking you to court every week. You've got this behind you now. What are you going to do with yourself, or what can we see, from yourself in the near future?
Basically, what Bob was trying to say is, aged you a couple of years. Are you going to retire? Aged you mentally, that's what I'm trying to say.
And physically.
Well, physically, obviously not being able to train as well. So, are you going to carry on fighting, or are you just going to call it a day?
To be honest with you, I have kind of got it geared in my head what I want to do. But I just feel a bit exhausted, to be honest with you. Mentally, I just feel a bit exhausted. But at the same time...
A nice holiday to Barbados might refresh you.
It's funny you should say that, because I'm actually looking at going away for December. I'm going to take the missus away and go away December. So I think I'm going to do that definitely.
What about the other thing we discussed a little while back? Your big plans for January. You were gonna come back with your own little station thing.
Oh, the TV.
The TV.
Well, the TV is something that I'm going to support. It's something I'm supporting. It's not something that...
No, you mentioned, that's what I meant. You mentioned something being part of something big coming.
Yeah, something coming, The TV channel is being set up. It's been in the pipeline for about 6-7 months. It's going to be called Real Talk TV.
Is that still going ahead?
Well, we've got a Real Talk radio show that airs every Thursdays.
Yeah. Well, in that case, it's Real Talk all the way around.
Everyone wants to talk real these days.
Well, the point is, the TV channel will be talking real. I don't know what you guys are talking about with your Real Talk TV, but it's Real Talk TV. It's going to be Real Talk Radio. I don't know what you guys are talking about with your Real Talk Radio, but you know me, I'm quite a hard hitting. If I've got something to say, I'll say it. And the TV channel, I'm backing these guys because it is going to be controversial TV. People are going to say. I mean, for example, one of the interviews that they were planning on doing. I don't know if they're doing.
Is that why you quit?
What's that?
What the planning was?
Say that again?
What's the planning on?
Well, I
probably jumped the gun here.
No, I am jumping the gun. Maybe I should say it, but then I wasn't told to keep quiet about it. But they did want to interview the guy from the EDL.
That's what I'm saying. He's walked away. So what happens now?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on yet. But that's how controversial it was. They were going to do a live story on him. Because I like that. I supported. I like the idea of that. And I tell you why I like the idea of that. Because I don't know if you notice, history is written by the victor. Therefore, how it's written is how the victor sees it. The truth isn't really told. For example, let's look at use an example, World War One, Britain against the Turks. Oh, Britain won the war. But really and truly, if you study battle section by section, the Turks held up the Allied forces for a long time. It was a drawn out situation with the Turks. They ended up calling him Johnny Turk. It was like they really respected him in the end. The British soldier did. But you don't hear too much about that in history. And this is what I'm trying to say to you now. Sometimes it's good to hear a lot of people dog the EDL guy, maybe rightfully so. But what is his true meaning? What is it he really wants to get across? Is it that EDL's been hijacked by skinheads, etc., and they're coming up with more radical things than what he was actually looking into? It's a little bit like this dog case. I gave a story that, of what actually happened. The paper and the police twisted it to say no, it was revenge. It wasn't self-defense. So things can be twisted so easy by the powers that have the power. The power controls the media, and power corrupts. Absolute power can corrupt. Do you understand? So if you haven't got a voice or you're not heard, then that's that. So I think the TV channel is going to be a great thing. I think your radio station is going to be a great thing. Real Talk Radio, if it's happening. Is it
the brothers already running? They run their shows on Thursdays each other. So
I don't know what the station's about. What are you guys doing on there?
No. That's a particular show.
That's
all
right.
Okay.
A show on one of my, like we're a show where the late.
What are you doing on that show?
It's not we. It's a brother Rizzo and brother Kamal that do it. Apparently.
Is it hitting hard issues as well?
They're targeting more religious debates, to be honest with you.
Right.
Like Dunya Deen, I think it was titled the show last week. You know, arranged marriages, some
the hijab
issues and stuff like that.
Well, it sounds like real talk issues. I think the TV channel, from my understanding, is going to be a little bit more hard hitting. It's going to be more interactive with the general public. It's going to be.
When are we expecting this to be about?
I've been told it's launching in January.
What's your input into it? Why they want you to be part of?
Because the channel will feature 4 different topics. It will feature Fighter of the Month.
Okay, that's where you come into, is it?
Not necessarily, because I might not be fighting that month, but it will feature Fighter of the Month. It will feature Legends, which covers retired fighters, and it will feature.
So basically, what's it about fighting?
No, that's what I'm saying to you. It's going to feature those 2 things. Then it's going to be more general public things. Where they're going to have life stories where they're going to feature people that have had influential. That their lives have influenced the general public, and they're going to have debates on there also. So it's going to cover quite a wide selection of things.
Okay. Do give us a shout when it's up running, so we can have a little butchers of it. Before we go, I just want to say a few Eid Mubarak to people that have been texting in, people that are listening. My special and humble thanks for you, Andre, for giving up your time. For again, it's not easy for like yourself, a professional athlete, but I think this was a very, reading the press what it's about, was a very hard-hitting story that had to be told, and I thank you for that. Julian, absolutely an honour, pleasure to meet you as well.
Thank you, pleasure.
But we're going to have you on future shows, inshallah.
We're going to have you on a show in a few weeks' time, and you can tell your story, and it's going to be, I'm sure it'll be very interesting.
Very interesting.
Because, a lot of people like to talk about Palestine and this and that. They like to give their opinions, but no one's been there.
Can we just have 2 minutes quickly before we wrap up of what you're about, like your experiences in having been to Palestine itself?
Well, Palestine is one issue dear to my heart. I've been there 3 times. In the summer of 2011, I was teaching there for a couple of months in Nablus, which is a town in the north of the West Bank. In the occupied territories, you've got Gaza to the west and the West Bank, which is the west bank of the River Jordan, which is heavily occupied. There's settlements all around and Israeli soldiers. And I was there teaching English, and I did a bit of Thai boxing out there as well, actually, with a guy called Salahuddin. Shout out to Salahuddin in Nablus. And it was a fantastic time. I'll tell you all more about it, hopefully.
Inshallah. We're going to make a big show for you, and inshallah. We want you to be part of the team as well as a regular.
Just to clarify, Julian is not a Muslim. Inshallah, plenty of time for that.
He looks like one. He looks more Muslim than you.
Left it hence me giving Islam when I met him, subhanAllah. So that's Julian, inshallah, in the future show. I think there's a heavyweight show lined up next week. Very heavyweight, inshallah. It's confirmed, but yet to be.
It will be confirmed tonight,
inshallah, but yet to be made official. You'll catch us on YouTube, Ustream. We're targeting YouTube, Ustream, and Facebook and Twitter. We're all over face media. Brother Yasser, I got to give him a shout as usual. If it wasn't for Yasser standing here now, advertising us and doing all his, we're basically nothing. Me and Barbara here are here due to the brother Yasser, who's always in the background. Some people that are in the background don't get noticed and respected for the hard work that they do, but brother Yasser here, working his socks off, and obviously got me and Barbara motivated in what we do, basically just come here to present the show.
That's right.
It isn't difficult. There are loads of brothers listening out there that text me after the show. Brothers, you know, thanks for your feedback. Inshallah, if it's positive or negative, we take you on board. If you upset anybody, it's not our intention to do so. We want you to participate in our show, be part of our show. You know, even if you get a text in just to say whatever, even if you want to give a shout out to your friends, family. It's here today, you know, you could have given a shout out, it's late now, but inshallah in the future show we'll interact with you, give you more details what we're about. But definitely stay tuned for next week's show. Inshallah, my brother Yasser's going to pump it out there, he's already on it. So inshallah we'll see and hear from you next week. Last word to you, Bob.
Well, that's it, inshallah. You know, just support the show. You know, we're here for you. You know, we don't want to just be sitting here every Wednesday evenings, you know, just talk to ourselves. You know, we're doing this show for the community. We want to highlight issues. We want to, you know, bring issues to the table that no one wants to talk about. And, you know, we're here for you guys, and that's it. You know, this is our only reason we're here. There's no other reason. So, inshallah, keep supporting, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Inshallah.
Mm.